coming to the process of ethical hacking. Now, this is a very good process, and although you can see that there are some hard words reported here, but just let's try to reduce this process. I will just open a notepad here, help you analyze the whole thing. All right. So, ethical hacking, as I told you, ethical hacking is just similar to how the normal hackers work, but this is legal because you have the permissions of the businesses. So another analogy for ethical hacking or hacking is basically how you will rob a bank. That's one of a very good analogy for just going through the process of ethical hacking. And you guys might be currently watching the season 4 for Money Heist, so it will be a very good to just give you the brief points on how to handle that kind of thing. So the first thing, how a normal bank robbery takes place. Just behave like a robber right now. Just behave like the person who is trying to attack the bank, and what are the different steps you might take to attack the bank. So the first step for you is related to information gathering. So whenever you are robbing a bank, not that you are going to actually do that, but just think of it that whenever you are going to rob a bank, then the first step is information gathering. So what is information gathering for you? That you are going to study the different timings for the bank. You will notice how the security is being maintained, how the different cameras are working inside the bank, how the people of the security are interchanging between each other, what are the different officials who are working in the bank, how big is the bank, how deep is the bank, how many vaults does the bank have, what kind of assets does the bank store, whether the bank has gold, whether the bank has cash, whether the bank has bonds. So you are going to do complete information gathering to start off the process for this. The second step, you will go into scanning. Scanning is mainly related to that you are going to scan across that now what kind of services does the bank is using. These services could be related to that kind of like a cash registry is coming into the bank to refill the ATMs at this much time. It could be related to that the security guards are handling what kind of guns. It could be related to what kind of softwares are running behind the hardware which is used behind the bank. So all those things you are going to scan across and see what is going to happen with the process. Then once you have gathered the information and done the scanning, the third step is going to be gaining the access. Gaining the access would be now how you are going to enter in the bank, how you are going to perform the different activities with the bank. So you need to gain the access. If you are behaving like a robber, you need to have the access of the vault, like in the series the Money Heist. You have to have the access where you are going to perform and do multiple stuff with that. Once you have gained the access, the next step is maintaining the access. Maintaining the access is required because you need to do something with the assets. Again, with very similar to how the series we have the Money Heist, you need to maintain the access to make sure that the gold is converted into some kind of different format. So maintaining the access to make sure that you are able to exploit the assets which are present within the bank. And finally, you are going into clearing tracks. So once you have done the robbery, your last step is that you are going to clear your tracks and make sure that nobody is going to notice you and nobody is able to figure out how you have exited the bank. Now these steps, if you just link these steps with the process of ethical hacking, the process is actually pretty much the same. The first step is mainly your information gathering for hacking also. So information gathering under hacking is mainly related to studying the business. You will study about the business. You will try to see what are their IP addresses. You try to just Google them, what business operations are. You try to see on who is lookup. Who is lookup is a very good tool which is used to see the IP addresses of the businesses. So who is lookup, this one. So just an online tool which you can go across and see different IP addresses of the businesses, what domain is running on which IP address. So all those kind of things you will try to figure out with information gathering here. The second step, scanning, you will go into scanning the services. Once you have gathered the information, you will see what kind of ports, what kind of different things your business is using. Supposedly they are using a login page, or they are using other services like FTP, or they are using SSH or PostgRE SQL, MySQL, what kind of services are being used behind the process. Once you have done the scanning, you will also figure out what kind of services are vulnerable, whether their login page is vulnerable to SQL injection. Either I can run a cross-site scripting, or on the network end, I can see whether they are using some kind of vulnerable security threats, or I can do a brute force attack on top of them. So all those process will be covering under scanning. Then these two steps, information gathering and scanning, you might have again seen in the movies and the that these are the major steps. Gaining the access, maintaining the access, that's just a one-day thing, because the robbers are going to enter, do their part, and then they have to clear out everything. But the major step, which actually takes days, is information gathering and scanning. And same is with the hacking process, that information gathering and scanning is the major process. You need to spend your time on the gathering and scanning part. You need to figure out what are the different services, what are the different things which are being used here. Once you have done that, you are going to gain the access. Gaining access is again related to that you are going to enter into the system. You have seen that these are the vulnerabilities present, these are the different exploitations present. Now you are going to use those exploitations to gain the access of the system. Once you have gained the access, under big organizations, it's going to be that they have their security teams or some kind of security procedures or protocols in place who will try to remove you from the system. So you have to maintain the access, that they are not able to remove you from the system, because now you want to do some kind of exploitation with the system. And once you have done the exploitations, once you have carried out the hack, the last step is again clearing tracks. So you need to make sure that nobody is able to monitor your IP address or see from where you have entered and how you have exited from the system. And under ethical hacking, after this, you will have one more step which will be related to reporting. So you will just report back to the organization that these are the vulnerabilities which you have, and that's how I have exploited these vulnerabilities, and these are some of the guidelines on how you are going to protect your system from the vulnerabilities. So that's just a basic outlook of how a complete hacking process works, and it's very similar to the real world analogy, and you have to behave like that. You have to do the reconnaissance, which is information gathering, go to scanning, gaining the access, go to maintaining the access, then clearing the tracks, and finally doing the reporting for the whole thing. After this, these are just the basic explanations of these points about different steps which I just discussed, how these are being carried out. So again, the information gathering is about that you are going to monitor and gather all the information about the software or the business, and then you go to the scanning part, where you are going to do the port scanning, the vulnerability scanning or network mapping. Then you go to the gaining access, where you will actually exploit the system. Then maintaining the access, which will be just keeping the system under your control. Finally clearing the tracks, where nobody is able to track you, and then you clear off with the reporting. So that's the whole process of ethical hacking.